First of all, welcome to this, the latest in our series of webinars over the last year. And these webinars are here really to highlight the work of FQMS, but also to showcase all that is good about Palestine. And today we have two speakers who demonstrate this perfectly. We've got Dr. Thabet Abu Rass and Dr. Hala Qasrawi, who we will tell you about in a bit more detail shortly. But before we go to our first speaker, I just want to give you a summary of our achievements over the last 6 months. So we have been busy. Times are, we don't really have much of a downtime in FQMS. And we had an event only a few weeks ago organized by Nia Sarugi, one of our trustees in Bristol, and it was Palestine through posters. And it's the first time we've had an event in Bristol, and it was successful in that it attracted a new crowd of people that who had not heard of FQMS before that, but also allowed us to see a different part of the country. And Neil and also his wife actually put in a huge amount of effort into the event. The Madrina partnership that we have, which is a program designed to give scholarships to students in the 4 Palestinian medical schools that we work with, continues. We had six graduates this year, and from all the medical schools, in fact, and we're trying to replace those graduates with some new scholars in the coming few months and few years. There's been a little bit of a hiatus because the Madrina Trust, our partners, have also got to rejig some of their priorities, but we certainly continue with that as it is. The postgraduate training program that we also are involved with, which provides scholarships and training for graduates from Palestine. These are specialists who have completed their training in Palestine to come and spend 2 years in the UK in designated 2-year training programs within certain subspecialties also continues. And we've had in the last year, at least 3 of our trainees have finished their 2 years in the UK. So we've had Dr. Muhammad Abbas, who is a respiratory physician in Southampton. We've got endocrinologist, Dr. Thabet Ayoub in London, and Dr. Naeem Qamhiya, who is a histopathologist in Bristol. And just to give you an idea of how good these are, most of these trainees are tempted by some very encouraging and also, well, very tempting offers from their trusts. So they are high caliber trainees, but we understand that the part of the training is to come here and then go back and give back to Palestine. And we've also had a new program called, which is to fund teaching fellowships in Palestine. We had our three first group of training fellows, and one of them is with us today. Dr. Hala Qasrawi is one of our teaching fellows from Nablus, and she'll be talking to us later on. And then finally, we also would like to welcome our 2 new trustees. We're very, very privileged to have Bob Niven and Emma Keating joining us as trustees. Bob has vast experience in the civil service, but also as non-executive member of boards, and has a lot of experience in dealing with big organizations. And we're privileged to have him and his experience. And Emma comes from a lawyer background and some human rights work as well. And again, Emma, we look forward to what they will provide to our group, both socially and professionally. I'll tell you a little bit about our program for today, and then I'm going to hand over to Bob. See, the program comprises of 2 speakers, and then we will have a Q&A after each speaker. We expect that the program will go on for about an hour, and after the speakers have completed their bits, then we will open up to questions. We would welcome questions both in the chat and in person. If you would like to ask your question in person, which we prefer, then please raise your hand and we'll come to you. We'll unmute you. We'll ask you to unmute yourself. Or if you prefer via the chat, again, we can pick up that to the chat, and one of us will pose the question to the relevant speaker. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Bob Niven, our trustee, to you, who will then introduce our first speaker.
Thank you, Khalid. Good evening, everybody, and hi, Thabet. Nakba. So I guess we've known each other for about 12 years altogether, and I can't think of anyone better to talk about the critical issue, the pivotal event for Palestinian people of the Nakba, what happened to their villages, and the consequences. You may say something about your own original family background, but given the critical nature of the issue of land in the whole thing we're talking about, I'm sure it wasn't any accident that in your early career you both studied and taught at university, centering on political geography and related issues. You went on to become, I regard, as a leading figure, very much a leading figure in taking forward the rights of Arabs and Palestinian citizens of Israel, not least in those 3 key vision documents, setting out roadmaps, if you like, to equality and full rights. And you also did that both with respect to Palestinians and the heavy emphasis on the rights of Bedouin people, especially in the south. And you are still a leading advocate, promoter, writer on the rights of Palestinian citizens and of Arabs, not least through your current role as joint co-director of the Abraham Initiatives organization, where it's 50-50 Arab Jews based in the state of Israel, seeking a shared and equal society through various means, but especially large-scale programs devoted to those aims, which aimed eventually, hopefully, for the government to pick up, which they have done in a number of respects. I first met you, I think, when I was on that project in Israel to help establish an equality commission in Israel. And now I'm on the UK board of the Abraham Initiatives. So we've known each other a lot in various ways, and really quite, if you don't mind me using the word, intimately, so much so that your son was my assistant on that equality project in Israel. And both then and since, you've been a marvelous person to me, tremendously hospitable, visiting your home in Kalatsawa, etc. Well, that's enough from me. I think I just want to say that Thabet's past, his present, and the person you are, I think you make you the ideal person to speak on this issue. And I'm really looking forward to this session.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Bob. What a surprise. And yeah, I'm happy to see you engaged in such issues, important issue of Nakba, Palestinian rights everywhere. So today I really would like to start with general note and then to talk about my family and to take you for a tour, study tour, while you're in London, to take you everywhere, to take you a tour to Herbia, my mom's village. So I would like to use a PowerPoint presentation to share with you. Hopefully it will work. Just start by saying a general note that the different empires passed through the Holy Land. And in most cases, you need to dig and to open archaeological sites to discover the richness of the Holy Land, the history of this place. And the Palestinian history is still alive. And you don't need to dig anything. It's only 73 years back. An internet application. Great, yes. Great, thank you. Well, an internet application actually called iNakba. Probably some of you, all of you, very familiar with this Nakba, with this application. Actually tells us a lot. Tell us about history of the Nakba, what happened with the Nakba, before the Nakba. And actually, Zukhrot is an Israeli NGO with other Arab NGOs really succeeded to raise awareness to what happened in the Nakba and the need to consider it in any way. So in Palestine, in the area of Herbia, my mom's town actually, and everywhere, there is a power exerted, and they change the place and the time actually, but also there is a lot of resistance. We see a lot of power, but also resistance, even resistance of nature, and I will show you some of that, okay, that prevent the disappearance of Palestinian reality on the ground. Heribia is a Palestinian town, as you can see in the map, actually a village located on the coastal area in the south. It's actually the closest, today the closest town to the Gaza Strip. It is actually, it was a town of 2,300 people lived in this town, 1948, in the eve of the Nakba, and sit on over 22,000 dunams, okay? A huge area that extended from the highway that connected Gaza Strip to Jaffa, to the coastal area. All of this area belongs to Heribia, okay? Dozens of Palestinian villages really also in the surrounding area really were flourishing, but not anymore. Today, it's really all destroyed following the Nakba. Over 30 different families, or I can say clans, really lived in Heribia, and this place is very well known in the history. Or the Crusades refer to it as Forby. And it is the location where the second battle against the Crusades took place. If you remember, Hittin battle in the north, close to Tiberias, it took place in 1187, and the second battle that really expelled the Crusades from Palestine, the final one was in Heribia. It's called Forby in the Crusader history. Okay, so it's a well-known place, well-known village. Well, I would like to go a little bit and show you the village itself. This was the village, and thanks to Dr. Salman Abu Sitti, it's a satellite image of the village. Before 1948, the village with its houses. And yes.
Sorry, I think your slides are not moving.
It's not moving.
So we're still on the first slide, which says the Heribia, the Palestinian village that refuses to disappear.
Oh, this is not good.
We're used to this. It's okay. Now we can see it. Yeah, now it's moving.
So moving Heribia, yes, and yes, we can see here the village before 1948. Sorry. Oy. This is the village before 1948, and actually with the neighborhoods and the houses, as you can see. Thanks again, I took it from the Salman Abu Sitti, that really working hard to try to show the reality before 1948 in Palestine, all Palestine. And this is the reality today. You can see this is the place, the center of the town, with the three different neighborhoods, Sheikh Ahmad, Sheikh Saeed, even one woman got the name of one neighborhood. This is before 1948, Sheikh Fatmi. Sheikh Fatmi, as you can see, Sheikh Ahmad and Sheikh Saeed. This is the reality today. We can see here one kibbutz with the name Karmi that built on the ruin of the village. Okay, so two kibbutzes were really built in the ruins of Heribia. And the first one was Kibbutz Zikim in the coastal area of the village land. And it's very interesting to read the slogans of the first people who really founded that kibbutz: another home for the people, another border guard, and another red flag on the way. This was in 1949, and actually the lifted Zionist movement called Hashomer HaTzair really started the two kibbutzim. So going back to the story of my family, that my mom was born in this place in Herbia in 1928. Again, it's, as I mentioned, it's very close to Gaza Strip itself. My story, personal story with the Nakba, started when I was 7 years old, exactly in 1962, when I heard my mom speaking on the Israeli Arabic radio and sending a message to her family in Gaza. She was looking, she doesn't know where exactly they live. She knew they went to Gaza. So she was talking to the radio. Until then, I didn't know anything about my mom's family and her story. Palestinian citizen of Israel inside Israel really put under military governance between 1948 and 1966, and they didn't have the opportunities to free movement of freedom of speech also. So talking or discussing the Nakba was a risk matter during this period, during the first 18 years after the Nakba. So I have 14 brothers and sisters today, and we never talked about the story of my mom until the 1967 war, when Israel occupied the Gaza Strip, and my dad started to look for our second half of the family, my mom's family. In August 1967, 2 months after the occupation of Gaza, we arrived in Gaza, and to be among the first families to look for relatives, our relatives in Gaza, and to look for my aunts, cousins, uncles. Only then, 19 years later, did my mom tell us what happened during the Nakba, and her family and their family's personal story. And what's the story? Our story is really very interesting. It was one homeland, one geographical area between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean, including Gaza. My dad, from a Palestinian village called Kalansawa, it's in the center of Israel today. He met with my mom in 1943, 5 years before the Nakba, and got married in early 1944. My mom from Herbia in the south joined her parents in a commercial visit in the central towns of Palestine at that time, 1943. Okay, they came to Tulkarem, to Nablus, and the center of Palestine. And my town, my father's town is located in this area. So both families, the family of my mom and my dad, really met, and both have the same last name, both Abu Rass family. Okay, and they don't have really connection, blood relation at that time. So since both have the same last name, Abu Rass, my grandfather, actually from my dad's side, really invited the family of my mom's side, my grandmother and everybody. They invited them to join and to be hosted actually in our town in Kalansawa. And this is how they met. And they spent a couple of months in Kalansawa, and they asked them if they can get married. And from here, my family actually started, okay, 1944. 4 years after the Nakba took place, my mom, just to remind you, moved to the center, to Kalansawa town, my town today, and her family was deported to Gaza as tens of thousands of Palestinian refugees really deported there. So Herbia, it's very interesting place, and it was destroyed. The whole village was destroyed, just like dozens of villages really destroyed in that area. And still there are few things that remained. And one major thing is the school that built in 1922 to serve the boys of the village. And my mom wanted to go with her, went to the school with her brother a couple of times, but they kicked her since it's for school for boys. So in any case, this is the school that converted after 1948 to be the administrative office of the kibbutz Karmiya, that was founded in 1950, and they even named it by Beit Habanim. In Hebrew, Beit Habanim, the house of the sons. Who are the sons? The sons that really got killed in the Israeli wars. Okay, there are six soldiers from the kibbutz really killed in the Israeli wars, and they named the buildings after those six soldiers. Okay, very stone building. It's obvious it's really still there, and it's remind us of hundreds of Palestinian kids who learned from in this school between 1922 until 1948. Well, there is another important building, this time in Zikim. Zikim is the second kibbutz, and it's the palace, Al-Alami Palace, okay, or Beit Al-Alami, and it's really renovated, and now it's kind of a place where the kibbutz use it for as a tourist attraction, and it's located in a hill that overlooking Gaza, and it belongs to Al-Alami family. Al-Alami, it's not a family part of the Herbia's families. It's from Jerusalem, a Jerusalemite family that have a couple of palaces in the coastal area. Herbia is one of the most beautiful shores, the coastal areas in the homeland. So they have this palace, and there is another palace really not renovated. And I'm bringing for study tours many Israelis to come and see. And then from this hill, I'm talking with my aunt, the only aunt in Gaza that I cannot see really. I cannot visit. And it's about 7 kilometers from there. Okay, talking with her, and it's still I cannot really visit her. She cannot visit me because of the situation. This photo, I took it from that hill that overlooked to Gaza. You can see the houses of Gaza. It's very obvious that the area. Okay, it's one area actually. The border, actually, Gaza border was supposed to be exactly down here in the valley, called Al Hissi Valley, but Israel really expanded its border, pushed it toward Gaza in 1948, and got more to include the valley. And this valley, it's one of the richest valleys in Israel in terms of water, since the water started from the Hebron Hills and ran to the Mediterranean. The Israelis really have a reservoir here. They have a pool that really collecting the money, collecting the water, and they are used for irrigation, for kibbutzim and mushavim, for agricultural towns in the southern part of Israel. Well, the border with Gaza, it's not only a land border, it's a sea border. As you can see, this is the border in the Mediterranean, and behind it we can see the houses of Gaza from Herbia. So close, so close. Well, the destruction of the, nobody can really eliminate the evidence of the destruction of the village. We can see the stones everywhere, and even the people of the kibbutz who got order from the Israeli military to destroy the village. It's really collected the stones in specific place, and we can see it still until today. Still, there are wells there that really good, that witness of the life of the people. You can see this is exactly in the center of the village, okay? But also there is a well that the kibbutz people kept it close to the school, where the kids really drinking from the well. It's right here. It's a couple of 20 meters from the school. It's close to the school itself. Well, I believe the richness of the trees there, the fruit trees there, it's unbelievable. I am wondering, I'm visiting so many villages, Palestinian villages, destroyed villages in Palestine, and never saw the richness of the diversity of trees, all that fruit trees. One of the most famous trees in this part of the homeland is the sycamore jumez. Okay, the irony that people, the Jewish people, really Israelis, don't eat it at all, while Gazans, they are sell it in the market. Okay, so I am freely going to pick their the sycamore and eat it and enjoy it. And it's a tree that actually growing only in the coastal, southern coastal part of the homeland. So you cannot see this kind of trees in the north, in Galilee, for example, or in the West Bank and other places. Olive trees, ancient ones, it's go behind hundreds of years. Also there, it's witnessing that there is a different reality, just 70 years and 100 and 200 years in this place. But the story of the grapes there, it's really a well-known story and amazing story. 73 years, nobody is really taking care of this grapes trees, but still there are nobody irrigating them, nobody's taking care of them, and they are growing after 73 years. Well, I'm picking olive trees and I'm picking grapes, and the most important thing that this grapes is exactly growing on the shore, in exactly 100 meter from the water, 100 meter, not more than that, so close to the coastal area. Still, every year I'm going there, I'm taking groups to pick grapes, and you can see the photo here. But when we talk about power and resistance, we have to talk about the reality of the geography, actually, where really the dunes are trying to take over these trees, okay? The dunes of Herbia. And we see a grape tree that is looking for the sun all the time, okay, looking for the sun. And we have the top of a hill here. You can see which kind of grapes tree here. It's very interesting. It's resist. It's saying, I'm not going to die. I don't want to die. After 73 years, still they are giving fruits. And the same thing with other kind of fruits. For example, guava. Guava, it's exactly the power and resistance. See the dunes. The dunes are trying to cover all the time those trees, but those trees are each year without any treatment. Okay, they are growing, and I am picking here. Here is my photo. Well, I would like to end by saying a general thing about, I'm happy that the issue of Nakba is getting, there's more awareness within the Israeli society. I see my duty and other people's duties to raise awareness about what happened in 1948. I believe that we should educate Israelis, not all Israelis, but mainly Israelis, about the Nakba and bring them to acknowledge what happened during those years. It was a disastrous event for the Palestinians, okay? And a solution for the Palestinian issue, Israeli-Palestinian conflict, cannot really overpass the Nakba at all. I believe that more and more Israelis willing to hear, at least, about the Nakba, and I'm happy to show that people acknowledge that something happened, the looting even, and that nobody can really, the Nakba is there, cannot really disappear. I'm trying to use always a material from the Israeli archive only, okay? Only. And you can see here the deportation order from the Israeli military of the people of Herbia and the adjacent villages, okay? Jia, Barbara, Georgia, Herbia, Deir Sneid, and Ikhsas, Jora, Hamami, and other Nelia, Al-Ji, and other orders. I got it from the Israeli archive, okay? It's in Hebrew. I just translated down the names of the villages, but it's obvious that early November 1948, okay, 49, sorry, 1948, November 48, really they got order to expel the people and destroy the village, okay, destroy the village, and this way to prevent Palestinians from returning to their homes. By the way, my dad, my uncle, sorry, from my mom's side, tried in 1950 to return to Herbia, and he was killed in the border. One more thing that we should pay attention to it, there are so many places in Israel today that really shows that the Palestinian history is still there. Unfortunately, there is something really bad is happening, that religious places is becoming more and more kind of call it museums here. Israelis love museums, and they love to have those museums in mosques. This is the case of Bir Sheva Mosque, where it's become, and this time they call it the Islamic culture, Museum of Islamic and Near Eastern culture, okay? This is not the case in, for example, Al-Majd Mosque, okay? Al-Majd Ashkelon, okay? Where is the Museum of Ashkelon, of Ascalon, the museum of the place, exactly in the mosque. I'm talking about places where tens of thousands of Palestinians, Muslims, are attending these places every day. They are working there. Now, Israel is becoming more mixed region. More and more Palestinians, Muslims are moving, especially the middle class, to live in those Jewish towns, became Jewish towns over time. It was Palestinian towns, and now overwhelming majority as Jewish towns. And there is a need to give these places to Muslims to actually to keep and to manage. This is not the case. And well, started in Beersheba, in Bir Sabah. This is Al-Khalasa. Khalasa, it's Kiryat Shmoni. It's in the Lebanese Syrian border. Again, a mosque that became a museum, but this time after the name of three terrorists, actually, that killed in Egypt in 1956, okay? Well, I'm saying terrorists just because the international community saying it's they committed terrorist acts in Egypt. Okay, this is the case of the mosque that named after the three terrorists in Kiryat Shmoni, and we should demand returning these places to Muslims. They can use it for worshiping, and that's it. Also, it's very important to know that the reality of the whole region in the south was different in 1948. Before 1948, it's not, when we talk about the Negev desert, even in Nakba, people tend to think that it was a barren area. No. Well, this is a satellite image of Hebron Valley, 1945, southeast of Beersheba. Just look to the agricultural slots. People really use this land. So we can be aware also how the Palestinians used the coastal area and other areas for agriculture. Well, I would like to thank you from Herbia. Very beautiful place that I would love all of you, if one day come to our homeland, come to Israel, come to Palestine, to take you for a tour, to study tour, to see a great place that it's great to visit in. Thank you, and happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much for a really quite a tour of that part of land that I think we've spoken about. It turns out one of the ways I got introduced to you was because I saw a video of yours, and this is the same village that my father was born in as well, interestingly. I would like to open to questions. Perhaps I'll start with one while people pluck their courage. So how did you locate these landmarks in Herbia? Was it through your mother's family, or are there maps available, or how did you find them?
Well, I am a political geographer. I got my PhD from University of Arizona. I really interested in the southern part of the homeland, especially the Negev area and the coastal area. And also I encouraged by my connection to Gaza, to my family. I studied in Ben Gurion University in Beersheba. So I lived in the south for over 35 years of my life. So half of my life I spent in the Negev. I really interested in geography, in politics, and also it's blood related to this place. And also I'm digging, I'm nothing to hide, I'm a politician too. I really like to dig in the history and try to understand not only the history of my family, but the history of my people. I am very engaged. And one more critical thing I have to say, that Arab NGOs related to Nakba really concentrate in the northern part of Palestine. They almost ignore the southern part, while the overwhelming majority of the villages that destroyed during the Nakba were southern. It's in South Jaffa, Lod Ramle area, and in the south, not in the north. But there is no enough attention to this area. So this is why I'm really very active in this area, and I'm focusing exactly on Jewish and Israeli public opinion shapers, journalists, people that really willing to listen to the Palestinian narrative.
I mean, what has happened to the villages? I mean, of course, you know, there are lots of stories, I'm sure, but what do you think, what has happened in general to those people who were villagers who left those villages and went, like your family did, and stayed within Israel, rather than go to Gaza or the West Bank? Are these people now widely spread within Israel? Do they have success stories in terms of their education and their achievements as well, like you?
Well, no doubt that we are lucky. We are lucky to stay in our homeland after the Nakba, and yes, there is a lot of successful stories, and I consider myself one of those successful stories. but we really worked hard for that. I got my education in United States of America, but also many in the early 70s, many delegations of students went to the Eastern Bloc, the Soviet Union and the communist countries. And then in the last 20 years, we see a lot of Palestinian students attending the Israeli universities. And no doubt that some of those people are coming from the uprooted villages. And I can say that there are a huge number of Palestinian students attending Israeli universities. We're talking about almost 60,000 students today studying here. Our middle class, there is an expanded middle class within the Palestinian community inside Israel that really more influential than ever. Yes, there are many successful stories.
And in fact, for us, particularly from our specific angle, which is medical education, I know that my good friend, Dr. Amir Merey, is on the call, and he's your neighbor. He
Yes.
He worked with us in UCLH in London a few years ago. What is the medical sector like in your areas, and what kind of presence is there amongst Palestinian doctors in your hospitals, for example?
Yeah, well, no doubt that to be a doctor and to engage in medicine, it's very prestigious in the Palestinian community. So more and more Palestinian young people really go and studying actually medicine. And today, 22% of the total doctors in Israel are Palestinians from inside Israel. There are few Palestinians from the West Bank and from East Jerusalem really working within the Israeli hospital too, but 22%, okay? We are making up around 20% of the total population inside Israel, 1/5, okay? And we are already 22% of the total doctors. We are 50% of the total pharmacists, okay? We are almost 36% of the total nurses inside Israel. So we are there, and there is a kind of shortage within the I would say health system here, and the Arabs are filled. And but let's face it, we would like to see Palestinians just like us here, citizen of the state of Israel, okay? Part of in any realm within Israeli society, would like to be in the media, to influence in the media and politics, in the NGOs, in academia. And there is still a lot of discrimination against us within the Israeli society. This is why Bob and I, through our Abraham Initiative organization, trying to work harder for the integration, for equality within the Israeli society. Israel as a country, no doubt, it's defined as a Jewish and democratic state. This is the official definition. However, it's about a Jewish supremacy state. It's after nation-state law. We see the direction of the state. Yet we have a great battle that Arabs, Palestinians, but with many Jews are together trying to change this reality. We are a minority within Israel, but hopefully one day things will change. But the total political direction, it's going to the right more than the left within the Israeli society. But there is no need, listen, there is a need for us. Actually, it's a win-win situation. It's a good for the Palestinian Arabs here. It's good for the state of Israel. I would like just to mention one statistic to understand the reality. Today, 49% of the total kids who are attending first grade are either Arabs, Palestinians kids, or Haredi kids, okay? Now, we are making up 20% of the total population, yet we are contributing to the Israeli GDP only 10%. The Haredi Jews who are making up 12.5%, okay? They are contributing to Israeli GDP only 6%, okay? Just imagine what will happen with the Israeli economy 20 years down the road, okay? So it's gonna hit the Israeli economy. There is an interest for the Israeli state of Israel, okay, to recruit us. And this is why we see more and more Arab Palestinians engaging in high tech also, okay? It's good for us, for the Arabs here, because we see the expanding of the middle class, okay? And at the same time, it's good for the state of Israel. After all, we are part of the system here. Yeah. We are Israeli citizens, yet we are proud Palestinians also inside Israel.
Yeah, yeah. Dr. Thabet, we have a few questions. Amir, I'll go to you. Nice to see you.
Hi, Khaled. How are you?
I'm very well. Very good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you as well. Can I comment for a second?
Of course.
Thabet, my dear friend, thank you very much for your lecture. It's always a pleasure to see you lecturing and presenting this amazing data. I'm very proud of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
As a guy who is a third generation of Nakba, I just want to say to everyone that first of all, we are here to stay. We are not going anywhere. I just wanted to comment on the sentence that Khaled mentioned about the physician's position, the Palestinian physician, the doctors in the medical system in Israel. So Dr. Thabet Abu Rass has mentioned some important data, and thank you for this. But what I want to say is just one thing, that if we just think about it, before 40 or 50 years, you almost could not find Arab doctors in this country. Before 20, 30 years, the people who learned in Russia and the Soviet Union just came back at the 70s, early 80s, and they established the first community physicians. So they were serving the community, but we did not have specialists. In the last 90s, early 2000s, many Arab physicians started to be specialists. Nowadays, the situation is absolutely changing, because we can definitely say that Arab physicians are leading, basically they are leading the healthcare system in Israel. So if you go to the hospital, you can see many specialists and consultants in the hospital. Not just this point, the faculty of medicine is full with lecturers, professors, deans, senior lecturers, and students as well. And this is very obvious. I'm teaching a medical students in Bar Ilan University in the north, and I'm training physicians and students in my hospital in Nazareth. So the situation is absolutely changing, and I can see this point as a big hope for the Palestinian population, because if we could do this big success and big steps in medical practice, I do believe in the Palestinian brains to make a good progress in other fields as well, like economics, politics, history, other research fields, etc. So this is my main points, and thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Amir. Of course, Amir probably didn't tell us clearly, but he lives in Qalanswa, and I've been to his house as well. And I think what you described, Amir, is also opens up thoughts and avenues for how the universities in West Bank and Gaza can possibly collaborate with the Palestinian doctors working in Israel as well. And I understand there are political complications with that, but certainly it's an exciting idea. I've got two more questions which I'll come to, and I'll ask them to unmute. Lena, you posed a question. Would you like to ask that in person?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. Thank you very much for a very interesting talk. And I'm sorry to have joined a little bit late. So you always see these instructions to destroy villages, to move the people, to evacuate, and they're very upsetting to read. And it's nice to see that you've translated this. So my question was, have you translated this for many areas? And is there a repository of all these instructions? Because they're very powerful from one place, but they would be even more powerful if you could have them repeated over and over and over again in the country. So is this easily accessible, and is it done, and is it widely distributed?
Well, honestly, it's not easy accessible today. The Israeli security intelligence, actually, they already going in every archive in Israel is trying to pick things, and they extended the, how it's called in English?
Moratorium or delay, or
yeah, the delay for another 50 years ahead. But I succeeded. I have 10 to 12 documents that already succeeded to collect, that talking about major events, major expulsion of Palestinian in Galilee too, in Tiberias, and in Galilee, also in the Negev area. But it's not enough. Honestly, it's not enough. We have to work as academicians. I believe that Jewish academicians, Israeli academicians, really succeeding to have more and more books, more articles are written about that period, about the Nakba, by Jewish scholars. And this is the hope, that people understand that we must talk about that. And sometimes it's embarrassing orders. Just one order that really, one document talking about Jews as looters, a statement by Ben Gurion himself following the Nakba, when he's just saw what the people, the masses did with the Palestinian property. He stated that Jews as looters. Okay, I didn't say that. Ben Gurion, the first Prime Minister of Israel, said that. It's a documented. Okay, so nobody can really hide or now just overpass the Nakba events. I believe there are several Jewish articles. They have better access than us to such important documents. Hopefully, we are cooperating now. We are trying to cooperate and do something with that, and to bring to raise awareness to this issue, to what happened in the Nakba.
Thank you, Thabet. I've got one final question before we move on. And Tariq asks, do you encounter difficulties in running the tours that you described from the army or from other parties?
Yes, not from the army. Again, those two kibbutzim, Karmiya and Zikim, was founded by the most leftist Zionist youth movement in Israel called the Shomer Tzair. Those people believe in two-state solution, even, okay? But when they see me with the groups, they got frustrated, okay? Because this actually tell them that we are here to tell the story, and I'm succeeded. Just last 2 weeks ago, I took the staff of my organization to study tour there, and they met with one of the founders of that kibbutz of Karmiya, and they told them the truth. We burned, we destroyed, we blew the cemetery. We did 1, 2, 3 just because the army told us. Yes, they don't like to see me picking jumez, sycamore. They don't eat it yet. They just do that. My presence there, it's really, it's not easy for them. It's not easy. Israeli military, Israeli police, it's not interfering in these issues. It's a civic. I am Israeli citizen too. I can really wander here and there. And my hope is to see more and more Jewish people, Israelis, coming and visiting this place. I'm happy that I succeeded to bring the editor of the Haaretz newspaper, one of the most famous newspapers in Israel, for such a tour. And he told me, I learned from you more than I read in all books. To see things on the ground, it's something different. I will continue to do that. I know I'm upsetting some people, but that's fine. This is my duty.
But listening to you has been very inspiring. I've enjoyed it. On a personal level, I find it very touching, and I have personal connections with what you've described. Your work is really very interesting and very inspiring. I hope you succeed more and more. Thank you for your time. Thank you for talking. I've been trying to, well, we've been successful in getting hold of you because we tried to entice you early in the year, but I know you had other circumstances. So we're really very happy that we managed to get you today.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the surprise, Bob, in front of me. Well, I'm gonna see you very soon, Bob. Hopefully.
Yep. Yes, you will. Yes, you will.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you, Thabet.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
I would now like to move on to our next speaker. Dr. Hala Qasrawi is a teaching fellow who has just completed a year. So about a year and a half ago, nearly 2 years ago now, FQMS's board decided that we would support a new project in the Palestinian medical schools, which is to encourage new graduates who exceed academically and have the ambition and the desire to teach, to support them financially to help them deliver a teaching program for the medical students. So this would help the medical schools. It would also help their personal agendas, give them the skills, better skills in delivering teaching and education, which is vital in medicine, as you can imagine. So Hala was one of the bright stars of her year in Najah University in Nablus. We got very high recommendations and commendations about her from the dean. And she then submitted a report as to what she wanted to do, and we were very happy with that. And we have been in touch over the last year. Thank you very much, Hala, for joining us. And Hala will tell us a little bit more about herself and about what she's done over the last year. So Hala, over to you.
Good evening, everybody. First, I would like to thank you for your invitation, and I'm really happy to be here with you tonight. And it was very inspiring to listen to Dr. Thabet Abu Rass about the 1948 villages. Today, I will talk about my experience during the last year with the FQMS fellowship grant. I'm Hala Qasrawi, a 26-year-old medical doctor. I was born and raised in Nablus, Palestine. I attended medical school after my high performance in high school, Tawjihi examination, my passion and love for medicine, and my nature of helping people took me to the medical school at Najah National University. I graduated as an honors student in 2019. During my medical school, I made and loved the lifelong friendship that I made. And medical school was the first thing that taught me how to perform under pressure. After graduation, I did my internship at Tubas Turkish Governmental Hospital and Palestine Medical Complex in Ramallah. It was a bit challenging at the end due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and we worked at the COVID-19 wards. After completing my internship, I worked at the Ittihad Hospital in Nablus for 3 months as general practitioner. Then I was offered the teaching fellowship by the FQMS at my university. I was very excited as it's a new experience for teaching students. During this year, I taught Art of Medicine course to third-year medical students. It was an incredible experience because I got to teach them the art of taking history from the patients and how they perform a general examination and specific examination. It felt wonderful to help them develop their skills and knowledge and prepare them for their clinical years. The course was held in the university, face-to-face, not via Zoom, despite the COVID-19 crisis, because we had to teach them how to perform physical examination. I taught 2 classes. Each class contained 17 students. At the end of the year, they performed a written exam and an OSCE exam, and they performed greatly. In fact, the students were very happy with the course, and as we were close in age, a 5-year difference, which made it better and easier for me to connect with students. They were very interactive, and at the end of the course, they gave me a bouquet of flowers and they gave me a notebook with their signatures on it. So I was very happy with this experience. The second part of my work this year was that I worked at the scientific research unit at our university. I coordinated a training workshop for the faculty members. It was held via Zoom. It included 7 training workshops on proposal writing, manuscript writing, literature review, referencing, and data analysis. Personally, I have benefited from this workshop. I enhanced my fundamental research skills, and now I'm working on many research projects. I also coordinated the student research graduation project and I followed them during this year. I was a part of the Medical Scientific Research Committee. This committee included faculty members who have experience in research. We used to meet every 2 weeks and discuss students' proposals and review them critically and send them our feedback to enhance their projects. At the end of the academic year, I organized their defenses and attended them all, and I benefited from this greatly. So this year was filled with great moments and great relationships with students, faculty members, and experience with research. Now my fellowship has come to an end and I'm seeking a radiology residency at my country. I have applied to Najah National University Hospital and I'm waiting for their reply. I'd like to express my special thanks to the FQMS for their support this year and their financial support that was extremely beneficial for me and built a great basis for me to seek a residency program. And I hope this program continues to support new graduates and help them to reach their goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hala. And again, perhaps I'll start off some of the questions. I mean, you've done a really quite an impressive job over the last year. You had a lot on your hands, teaching as well as being involved on the research side. I'm interested, what are the facilities that you have at Najah for scientific research for medical graduates or medical students?
Actually, during the last 2 years, they have developed medical education office, and the medical education office contains or include the scientific research unit. This includes the director of the research unit and the research assistant, who was me this year. I was coordinating student research projects. If you are asking about the courses that the students should take, they should take biostat course in their first year, public health and epidemiology, then research methodology, introduction to research, and their final year, 6th year, they have to submit a graduation project research. And we have also many laboratories at the university.
Okay. And what are the strengths of Al-Najah on the research side? Are there particular themes, fields that you feel Al-Najah is particularly strong in?
Actually, we have a connection with the hospital, so we made connection with the faculty and the hospital. The research is more clinical wise.
Do you think you'll continue with what you've done in the last year when you, inshallah, very soon become a radiology resident?
I think this will help me in radiology, because every residency program, you should perform a research and be up to date in your program.
Yeah. Well, Hala, thank you very much for the talk, and it's very nice to see you. We finally met, at least face to face on Zoom over the last few weeks while we're organizing this. We're very grateful for your time. I know it's very late for you. So thank you again. And we hope to see you in a future event, and hopefully also in person when we visit Nablus sometime in the near future when we're allowed to.
Inshallah, I will be glad to meet you in person.
So with that, we come to the end of the program. Thank you everybody for joining us, and have a good week, and we'll see you again soon.